69 by Senator Eggman relative to Social Work Month.
Senator Eggman, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. This afternoon I rise to present SR 69, recognizing March as Social Worker Month. It is also always fitting, I think, to do this on Women's History Month, as many of those in the profession are women, although we have a growing number of men also in the profession. What has been a couple of really tough years for social workers across, if you work in a hospital, or you work in a school, or you work in an emergency room, or a prison, or anywhere where there are people living together, you have been on the front lines during this pandemic. One of my friends is a social worker up in Placerville and has spent the last 2 years basically saying goodbye for people to their families with an iPad day in and day out. Those kinds of things wear on a people, but we are everywhere: mental health clinics, hospitals, hospice, adoption agencies, nonprofits, courts, and of course even here in the legislature. And you've all heard me talk about this. Despite having specialized training, we still do not have title protection, and especially during this time when we're calling for more and more social workers to be integrated into our first responders and public safety, I think it is imperative that at some point we take the final step of doing title protection for social workers. So in order to call yourself a social worker, you would have a degree in the profession, even though we acknowledge people like our own Senator Pat Bates, who worked as a social worker way back when she was a young mom, before MSW programs were available to all. We don't want to discount what she did, but as we continue to move to professionalize the degree, we think title protection is important. And so for that and for many other reasons, I ask that we acknowledge social workers today, every day, but especially acknowledge March as Social Worker Month, and I ask for your aye vote on SR 69.
Thank you. Any further discussion or debate on file item 13? Any further discussion or debate? Hearing and seeing none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Archuleta. Aye. Atkins. Bates. Aye. Becker. Aye. Borges. Aye. Bradford. Aye. Caballero. Cortese. Aye. Daly. Aye. Dodd. Aye. Durazo. Eggman. Aye. Glazer. Aye. Gonzalez. Aye. Grove. Aye. Hertzberg. Aye. Hueso. Aye. Hurtado. Aye. Jones. Aye. Kamwager. Aye. Laird. Aye. Leyva. Aye. Limon. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Melendez. Aye. Min. Aye. Newman. Aye. Nielsen. Aye. Ochoa Bogue. Aye. Pan. Aye. Portantino. Aye. Roth. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Skinner. Aye. Stern. Aye. Umberg. Wachowski. Aye. Wiener. Aye. Wilk. Aye.
Ayes 36, noes 0. The measure passes. Now, members, we're moving on to